Good morning, everyone. My name is Nitish Kumar Sani, and we will be discussing a presentation on how to build strong collaborative partnerships with families and communities in early childhood education. So we can move on to our next first slide. So introduction. So this session presents the value of working together in the teaching of early child. It is meant to motivate teachers and families to collaborate towards a common end. Success implies the establishment of authentic, respectful relations that make children learning more effective, meeting their needs that are diverse, and a connected and inclusive learning community. The, there are many tasks, vision, targets which better learning for the inclusion and well-being of all the children. We can move on to the next slide, which is children at the center. So what is the role of partnerships in learning and well-being? So children are the greatest beneficiaries when teachers, families and communities are collaborating. Emotional security and stability in learning is created through a common understanding between home and service. Partnership allows children to feel their culture, language and strengths have a place where community involvement provides a wide range of real life experiences that basically contributes to curiosity, resilience, and well being in general. So, that is our role of partnerships in learning and well being. We can move on to the next slide where we discuss the national quality standards. So what are the national quality standards? We all know in the context of the early childhood education. So what regulators require and why it matters day to day. So national quality standard quality area 6 basically points at how good partnerships are not an option but a sign of quality practice. Regulators anticipate the educators to be proactive in involving families in planning, observe cultural diversity and community ties. There's a shared decision making process and open communication are to be practiced daily between the educators, families, and all the children. We can also discuss EYLF version 2.0, which is the basic guideline of the early childhood framework. So, in practice, one principles and practices that require collaboration. So, basically, early years learning framework version 2.0 places collaboration as a key attribute to quality learning. It calls on the educators to consider families as co-educators and respect cultural knowledge in programs. Through collaboration, what we can do through collaboration is teachers and families they develop learning experiences that are based on belonging and identity, which makes education more relevant to themselves because whatever the learning experiences we do, if we do it through a collaboration, then we can include more family ties, more whatever the families do at their homes, their activities there. So then all of the children and the families they feel included, which makes education more relevant, inclusive and accountable to the real life situation of the children, not just to the that is it is not real life based. Also, what the research says. So, major findings of family community impact we will be discussing in this slide. So, studies indicate that children display better growth when the families and communities take part in educating. The researchers also note that there is enhanced literacy, confidence, and emotional well-being in environments characterized by high collaboration. Connection to the community offers life-sustaining services and support systems, and consistent and respectful interaction. What does that do? What that consistent and respectful interaction do? That basically helps us to build trust and a commitment to the success and development of each children. Constant cooperation develops trust, the sense of belonging, and attitude to lifelong learning. It's not just one-time learning. When children develop trust and a sense of belonging, then that's a lifelong learning. Moving on to the next slide. So family profiles, listening to diversity, culture, and household strengths. So forming family profiles assist the teachers to have the actual knowledge about the children they are teaching. With listening to the background of each family, language, and traditions, it is possible to plan learning that will be familiar and respectful to the children, to the families. They all feel included. If the teachers know more about the background and whatever the traditions, then we respect all the traditions and the background of each of the children, and that's how we can bring diversity and inclusion to our workplace. Next slide is we will be discussing constructing relational trust practical attitudes and behaviors as an educator. So as an educator, we play a crucial role in the childcare industry and also in the society. The creation of trust is not about policies, but actions. Effective relationships are achieved when teachers listen without reproach, keep their promises, and adhere to the family knowledge. Predictability and sympathy make communication a connection. So when all the parents which have their children in the childcare, they are predictable that how we do the activities in the childcare center, what are the learning experiences we are applying on the children, are we including their traditions and backgrounds in those learning experiences, and are we sympathetic to the children and their traditions. If we can like give a great accountability to all the parents, then that builds a connection, and with that connection we can build a trust. Next slide, we can discuss communication strategies that actually work. So, newsletters are not the only way to communicate effectively. Families interact in the most way that suits them lifestyle and language. The application of digital tools, face-to-face conversation, and translated materials will make all people welcome. By asking to hear and active listening, educators can make communication, collaboration, and do it to the benefit of building trust and making families feel that they are real partners in the learning of their children. That's why like it is very important to inform the parents in a way that they all can be the accessible. So that's why like most of the childcare centers nowadays use online pages where they post about the children's learning experiences and what their children do, so that all the parents, whether they are working not working, they they can make time from their busy schedule and keep track of their children's success. Moving on to the next slide, we can discuss co-planning learning goals with families. It's a step approach basically. So co-planning transforms families to partners and not observers. Start with what teachers observe and what parents are most familiar with. Collectively, coin learning objectives that are related to the personality and culture of the child as well as his experiences at home. We can also do a community mapping. So mapping community assets assists the educator to link the family with the beneficial local resources. Programs are enhanced by partnerships with libraries, local libraries, health clinics, cultural groups, and elders, and encourage inclusion. I can remember one example from my childcare where they call the local police to come and partner with the childcare center, so that children and parents can have a talk with them and they can discuss basic road rules with the children. So with these kinds of activities, with the identification of community resources and inclusion of the local professionals into the service, what happens, the educators can widen the range of learning of children and reinforce the system of acquaintance underpinning the growth of every child basically. And that's why it is very important to include community assets, community. So formal versus informal partnerships. So good early childhood education care networks embrace formal and informal associations. Reliability and accountability are ensured by having a formal contract such as MOUs with the health or support services. Non-formal connections, what's the example, like friendly relationship with local groups provide friend flexibility and direct assistance. Finding the middle ground between all of those will generate an enabling net that will address the needs of the family and enhance the work of the community. That's why practical relationships establish order and define referral practices. Moving to the next slide, we can discuss culturally responsive practice, specifically how to be truly inclusive. So, cultural responsiveness implies going beyond token celebrations to the actual inclusion. Teachers are able to incorporate family languages, histories, and customs during elementary education. Authenticity is ensured through consulting cultural leaders, and bias is challenged through continuous reflection. An authentic inclusion cherishes the uniqueness in the background of every child as an asset to create a more enriched and more equal learning space for all the children. So, be a challenge by ensuring respect, empathy, and equity are practiced. That should be our major goal basically. Next slide, we can discuss supporting children with additional needs, collaborative paths and adjustments. So, there should be teamwork and flexibility in supporting children with additional needs. Basically, they need more help, more work, and their learning abilities are very much different to the normal children. Teachers should work together with parents, counselors, and health practitioners to develop such inclusive programs. There is nothing too minor like visual aids, sensory tools, elastic routines. We can include a lot of list that would not help. Unceasing and human communication is the key to making each child feel competent, involved, and helped to achieve his or her potential. So, children with special needs they have like a lot of potential, but it depends on the teachers and their doctors and their everyone families to basically build that potential, tell how to make them competent and confident so that they can express their needs, values, and everything in the society. Moving to the next slide is the transitional planning, how to home to room to school partnership checklists. So the process of change may be daunting to both children and families. Sharing information, routines, and goals of everyone helps to smooth out the process as the collaboration in settings is achieved through planning, consistency in communication, and early contact with receiving educators through the use of visual aids helps in maintaining that stability basically. We can get new teachers or school as to continue with the learning. Teacher practice models, intentional teaching, scaffold, and documentation. So what does that mean? So good teachers do not just teach blindly. It is not that like teachers get a whole learning experience list and they just go on and start teaching all the like group of 3 5 10 children blindly without getting their needs requirements. But what is the main purpose of the teacher? They align the capabilities of every child with valuable learning experiences. The scaffolding of experiences, which is based on what the family share, enables educators to engage more. Record keeping is transformed into a sharing of the story of progress that not only informs planning but also acknowledge family involvement and bringing the learning process of children visible, relevant and highly personalized. That's how we can be teaching children and that's the model basically what teachers should take. So next slide is family-led learning activities, projects families can own and operate. So what does that mean? Activities that are led by the family make the difference of involvement to be a partnerships. That's not just we are involving the families. That's like we are building the partnership with them. We are building the trust with them. Parents can host cooking and storytelling groups or cultural art projects which can be used to supplement the curriculum. These programs are appreciative of family knowledge, reinforcing the sense of pride in children because they can see their parents are there helping and cooking their favorite meals which they get their home. So that is basically develops the sense of pride in children. For it also helps to form bridges between the communities and the children. Local partnership, children also have a respect for the heritage, and the families will also feel proud and appreciated. The program demonstrated that authentic collaboration leads to the sense of belonging, identity, and richness of all dimensions of early learning. Health education, collaboration, case study B, local partnership. So, what's changed? And early childhood education and care collaborated with a local community health clinic to facilitate development and health concerns of children at an early age. Frequent screenings, immunizations, and parent consultations were performed within the same early setting as the nurses and speech therapists were regularly visited. We can see that in most of the childcare basically nowadays because whenever the winters come or the weather changes, immunization is required. So early childhood care and settings do that for their children and as well as for their teachers. And we can include also speech therapist for the children, so it was convenient and east families in handling appointments, because most of the families are busy, they have other work appointments, and also that's why they are not able to take their children basically daily for to the hospitals and for their health checkups daily. So if we do that in the childcare settings, what helped, the teachers were able to obtain information concerning child development, and this helped them to modified the instructional mechanisms. Teachers and parents meet daily, basically when the parents come to pick their children up from the childcare centers. And if we do that, those kind of activities, like those kind of partnerships with the health clinics in the childcare, then the parents can also lay off their stress, because they know their children are being looked after, and that they can get all the details from the teachers regarding their children. So we can measure, reflect, and improve indicators, feedback loops, and quality in progress integration. So constant reflection makes partnerships remain meaningful and successful. The measures that educators can use to gauge success include the family participation rates, learning outcomes of children, and satisfaction surveys. Through though candid staff and family meetings, feedback on what is and what is not working is identified. And that is very important, because we should know, we should not be just teaching the children the learning experiences, we should also reviewing through that learning experience what the children learn, what they didn't learn, how we can improve on it, how can we can reflect on it, what should we tell their parents, how they can improve their children's learning. So that should be identified. Such insights will inform real life interventions such as improving communication, increasing the level of inclusion, or strengthening community connection. Recording this cycle in the quality in person needs to make the intention of improvement purposeful and present, basically. So that is the main goal of our. So we can also monitor parental participation, child improvement, and partnership performance. Integrate the presence of reflection and improvement objections into the quality improvement plan. So how we can include, how we can integrate is by reflection. If we are reflecting whatever the child needs are, how we with the what the learning experience will take place, and does the child needs met, what did he learn, did he grow, did he develop some sense of belonging. So that's the basic. Moving to the next slide is the conclusion and quick action checklists. Three things to begin this week. So, contact one family or community partner to enhance partnership. Establishing effective partnerships will not require it to be a large undertaking, but only to be initiated at this point. Start by reconciling with one household or community organization and found out how to collaborate. Like different people collaborate in different ways. Some wants them to look after your children and provide them like with notes, written notes, like what do you think, how their children grow. Some want them to be reflected in the through the pictures. Some reflected them by asking the teachers that what do they think, how their children's learning process is going on. So we should start by reconciling with those households. Then be truthful about the ways your day-to-day practice meets the requirement of the national quality standards and early year learnings framework version 2.0. All of the parents are very much like educated and focused today. So it is duty of all the educators to be truthful, because more the truthful are about your day-to-day practices, then the parents can believe on you, and that develops a cooperation. So we should be able to see respect, inclusion, and shared decision making. Lastly, we should identify a single small and specific objective in our quality improvement plan, a new community connection or family engagement strategy. If we can do that, that's the basically main goal of our building collaboration. And the last slide is the references which I used for this presentation. There are many authors and many books who explore basically the impact of collaborative learning on the development of critical thinking and how to make decisions. So these are a list of referencing which I used to get all the resources, that how we should do student engagement in community, early learning activities and everything. And there are some also which parents, teachers, trust relationships, and the student self-esteem. So some talked about the self-esteem of the teachers and the students and the parents, and everything should be inclusive basically in a early childhood care setting. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation. Hope you liked it. Yeah, I will feel free to welcome any questions and your point of view in this one. Thank you.